last section we talk about in chapter 4 starts out with, I think this is a little confusing that they put this in here at this moment, but I'm going to try to explain it to you. Very soon we're going to learn about scales, major scales, minor scales, which is their sequence of notes, like this one that you see here, which is the beginning of a C major scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then there would be a C, and I'm not really on the right pitches, so I'm sorry about that. When you have the notes that are contained within a scale, that's called diatonic. And the other notes that you left out, like all these guys over here, are non-diatonic. And we will learn more about those two terms. But for now, we're going to use it along with this word chromatic to discuss some half steps. Diatonic means the two notes would be in a scale. Chromatic means they would not. But for us right now, diatonic means, diatonic half step rather, means that two notes have different letter names and they are a half step apart. Like these are E and F, that's a half step. B and C are a half step. And F sharp and G are a half step apart. Here, F flat and F, well, that's a half step also, but they don't have different letter names. So we call that a chromatic half step. B and C sharp are also a half step apart, but the same letter name, at least the same first name. So we consider those chromatic. G and G sharp, also chromatic. Now, sometimes they are naturals. Sometimes they're a sharp to a flat. There could be other things. And this is where looking at a piano keyboard can be very helpful. And I sent you in an email a link to an online keyboard you can look at to help you with this, and also play some of these things in other places that we go through. So really, there's a whole lot of problems to work through to see if we can get those. So we're going to do these together and hopefully get a good understanding of this, because this is really important for what we have coming up. E to F, okay? Now this is a half step. And in this example, they only want you to say if it's a half step or a whole step. Remember, a whole step is two half steps. A to B is a whole step. There's a black key between those guys. F sharp to G is a half step. C sharp to D sharp is a whole step. E flat to D is a half step. B to C is a half step. E flat to F flat, also a half step. C to B flat, a whole step. Now, I didn't mention it, but be sure that you pause the video and work these out on your own. If you can keep up with me as I go through them, then I'm very happy for you. But you might find that hard to do if you haven't worked it through already. G sharp to A sharp is a whole step. D to E, also a whole step. D flat C, a half step. B to A, a whole step. E to F sharp, a whole step. G flat to F, a half step. G flat to A flat, a whole step. And D to E flat, a half step. Okay, now we have to write notes in according to what they have asked us to do, both the letters and the pitches. Let's see how we do on this. This is a D, so a whole step below is a C on the second space. A G, a whole step below, is an F sharp. Now let's make sure we're not missing anything. It doesn't say whether it has to be chromatic or diatonic, so you could be G flat or you could be F sharp, either one will work. A half step above E is F, could also be E sharp, I guess. A whole step above B, C sharp, and I'm not going to name all the enharmonic, oh, maybe I will, C sharp, and it could be D flat, could be other stuff too. A half step below E, E flat, or D sharp. Whole step below E flat, D flat, or C sharp. So half step above C sharp, a D. Yeah, it could be some double flats, double sharps, but let's just say D. A half step below C flat is B flat. A whole step below G is F or E sharp. Half step below D sharp is C or B sharp, and a whole step above E, F sharp or G flat. Now we're just a little bit pickier. We want to know if they're a diatonic half step or a chromatic half step, or maybe it's a whole step. So D, C, or W. Here again, really good for you to stop, figure these out on your own. This is a diatonic half step. This is a chromatic half step. This one is a chromatic half step, and this is a whole step. This is a diatonic half step. This is, again, a diatonic half step. B flat to C flat, they're two adjacent letter names, so that makes it diatonic for a half step. C sharp to D is a diatonic half step, but F to F flat is a chromatic half step. A to A sharp, also a chromatic half step. D flat to C flat is a whole step. A sharp to B, a diatonic half step, and E sharp to F sharp, also a diatonic half step, sorry. Now we got to write them in ourselves. Always above the pitch. Diatonic half step is diatonic, so it needs to be C to D. To make it a half step, it's flat. Chromatic half step above, what we're going to say E to E sharp. Chromatic half step above, D sharp. I guess that'll have to be D double sharp there. A whole step above A is B. A chromatic half step above B flat, B natural. A diatonic half step above D, E flat. Down here, a whole step above B flat is C. Chromatic half step above E, E sharp. Diatonic half step above C sharp is D sharp, and a diatonic half step above A is B flat. A whole step above E would be F sharp, and a diatonic half step above G flat would be A double flat. Now we're going to go below. E, chromatic, we should use the same letter, E to E flat. C sharp to C natural. Diatonic half step, E to D sharp. Chromatic half step, A to A flat. Whole step, G to F. Diatonic half step, F sharp to F natural. No, I'm sorry. F sharp to E sharp. Here we're still going below. G down to F. A diatonic half below F would be would be E. A chromatic half step would be D flat below D, and a whole step below B flat, A flat. Diatonic half step below F sharp would be E sharp, and diatonic half step below C flat would be C double flat.